Hello everybody. Today we're taking a closer look at 1955, The War of Espionage by Ape and Living Worlds Games. 1955 is a small two-player card game that came out back in 2011. Most people who got it and played it thought it was a pretty good little time filler. Some called it Pocket Twilight Struggle. It's meant to represent a tug-of-war influence battle between East and West during the Cold War. But as years went by, I noticed fewer and fewer people seemed interested in it, and I feel it's now largely forgotten. At least it flies so far under the radar that most new gamers today don't know much about it. I think this is a shame because it's a great little game engine that is really fast and fun to play, that looks cool on the table, but more importantly, I think 1955 can be made better than it is out of the box with a few variants, rules adjustments, and modifications. Of course, one has to be open to the whole house rules and modding scene thing if you want to make your 1955 game run more smoothly. So the whole purpose of this video is to rekindle interest in this title, and I think the mods we will discuss here directly address all of the main criticisms of the game that you're going to find online. So let's get right into it. I'm just going to make reference to the core rules here and there so I can concentrate on mods and adjustments. Check out Vassal's video on BGG to get a more thorough explanation of gameplay, and if you want a fair overall impression of the game, check out Callendale's summary video. Anyway, the game instructions come in a 16-page booklet, and this is what I will refer to as issue number 1. The first mod I propose simplifies the presentation of the rules. The booklet is okay, not terrible, but there are some unusual word choices throughout, and precision in language is often sacrificed in favor of stylized storytelling. In other words, the theme infiltrates the rules explanations, and you get a lot of redundant stuff that can be plumbed away. And this is a really helpful exercise to undertake, especially if you want to teach the game to a first-time player. I went through the booklet carefully and condensed information about the object of the game, the setup, the opening move, all subsequent turns, and a few gameplay reminders down to 15 bullet points on a single sheet of paper. It looks like this. I even included information about an expansion that we'll look at later. Anyway, you can see how easily I can describe the simple game engine at play here using cards. Each person is trying to pull influence in the disputed countries to their side of the board. Hand size, turn order sequence, and even the often overlooked rule where you move the cube in your home territory one space closer to your side to start the game is all there. You might think, so what? It's just a rule summary, but I argue in this case it makes a difference between taking 10 minutes or so to explain the game while flipping through the booklet to actually playing the game while teaching it right after you open the box. I think if you use a rule summary like this, you won't open the 16-page instruction booklet ever again. Yeah, but you never mention the cards and how they actually work on your cheat sheet. I can just hear you say it. So this brings me to issue number 2. The 2 player aids that come with the game. I'll be honest, I don't like them. It's the only thing I didn't like about the game. They're supposed to summarize your card play options, and they do, but here's the problem in my opinion. They are relatively small and wordy, and they don't convey information very well at an instant glance. I don't like the format either. It's not a list in black and white from top to bottom what can happen, either blocking or actively influencing on your turn. You could try something like this instead. Notice the difference. Both of these have the same information, it's just presented differently. Both are double-sided and both fit in the box. When you take a quick look at the original cards, it's just a bunch of small words. By glancing at a modified player aid, I instantly know the following: where I can play influence and what modifiers apply, home base, location of the flag, flag with the spy, or just the spy, it's all there. The back reminds you where you may block and with what modifiers. And this, of course, refers to the top half of the cards. The bottoms are for special actions, but those parts are separate but self-explanatory. You just read what the card says and follow the instructions. And a vignette gets attached to your card play. And yet these little stories don't refer to historical events either, more like they convey abstract concepts. So what you have here are a series of vague processes and reactions that result in pluses and minuses that are in certain cases affected by specific modifiers. And do you know what all that means? Well, sometimes it means what few rules there are in this game are often hard to wrap your head around or easy to remember. For example, if you are red, you can influence with blue cards on your home track with a minus, but you can't block on your home track with blue cards, only with red. Why is this? I don't know, but it works in the context of the game. So unless you make buffed player aids that smack you in the face at a glance with these kinds of reminders, I think the ease of play factor might suffer. Anyway, moving on. Now that we've dealt with the rules are fiddly criticism, we can look at potential game balancing issues. Like we've come full circle now, because there's some complaints online about the game being too balanced and that it might go on forever. It is a tug of war after all. So yes, in theory, it could happen, I guess. Communism works in theory as well. Anyway, I've never seen it. I've been in games that felt like they could have ended 10 minutes sooner. There's no doubt about that. Maybe 20% of all the games I've played were like that. But honestly, one of the remarkable things about 1955, I find, is that your games will end dramatically and in satisfying ways. Still, there are modifications available that can further destabilize the action and shorten the game. For example, don't forget you can flip the board and play the shorter influence tracks. It makes a difference. The game feels more swingy on the short track. If someone lands a blockbuster move on you out of the gate, especially in one of the minor countries like France or Poland, you'll say, oh wow, we're almost a third of the way from this contest being over already. Number two, consider playing with the political support expansion mod that is freely available on BGG. A user named Nick uploaded this mod shortly after the base game came out. And it's good. I like it. It's a legit variant. Every player should try it at least once, I think. So the expansion comes with a mat. It's really just a holding box. You print it out, and it's where you place bonus cards face down, which are awarded immediately after a player secures a country. Anytime a player uses an action that begins with the letters B or D, a card gets top decked from the draw pile and placed in the political support drop zone. So once again, you kind of have weird rules explanations. They could have just said 6 different cards trigger political support, 2 blockade, 2 deport, and 2 detain cards. Anyway, the whole idea works well enough. I added a yellow label to the printout and then added a strip of color to the relevant cards associated with the mod, so I have a visual cue to help me remember the trigger cards. If you use political support in your game, you'll notice more tension as cubes get closer to the ends. Card play choices become more difficult also because you don't want to play the political support triggers if your opponent is about to secure an area. And when a player does collect a bonus, momentum swings tend to be more pronounced, which can shorten the game. So once again, it's free. If you want to try something a bit different, how can you go wrong? Overall, I would say political support rules add a fun twist, but don't radically alter the game. And this brings me to issue number 4. There are critics online that believe the game feels shallow, even with political support rules, I would think, because they say there isn't enough to do, and actually there isn't enough stuff going on overall to keep the players coming back. When I first played it, I felt this too, but for me it was like, I just wanted more options or cards or something. I just wanted more games somehow because I knew I really liked it, I played it a lot, and it did start to feel a bit samey. And I really did think it was curious too that there was no Germany, or more specifically Berlin, factored into the game. Like every great Cold War drama or movie has that Berlin pressure cooker in it, where East clashes with West in a gloomy, divided city. especially spy stories set in that time period. Come on. So, how is that missing here? Well, for the sake of simplicity, you could say. Fortunately, though, if you demand even more substance from your 1955 game, like I did and many others, BGG modders got you covered. One day I was just surfing on the site and saw Noah V's A Divided Germany Print and Play expansion for 1955 in the file section. And I said, wow, all right, this is just what the doctor ordered. I was so happy to find a mod that was so ingenious and pretty simple, that really added some spice to 1955, which was a game many people considered already stale, even a year or two after its release. So this mod adds an extra victory condition and an extra track to your game with two cubes on it, one red for east and one blue for west. I used extra bits I took from Agricola, I think it was. Anyway, if you unify a divided Germany, I still think of my track as a representation of Berlin, but whatever. You can win the game if you can secure both cubes on a new track to your side of the board. You can only move one cube at a time. The cubes can't occupy the same space, and they can never jump each other on the track either. You can use special actions on the east and west track, mercenaries, with spies, normal influence, and -1 influence if it's with the opposite color card. I love this mod. Like I said before, it's such a smart idea. I'm so impressed with it. In practice, you find usually you don't get much of a response from your opponent when influencing your own faction in Germany. However, as soon as you start messing with the opposite color, things start to heat up really quick. Anyway, this mod, more than anything, inspired me to come up with more stuff for 1955. And I always wish there was more cards anyway. But now that I had a new track, I felt that it really needed a set or suit of its own. And I guess I really just wanted to see East and West Germany flags on cards. So I kind of went overboard with creating and adding expansion cards. So you can see here, this is the base game, and this is the stack of cards I add to it. Not all of the cards are my design. 3 are considered official expansions, 2 college activist cards, and 1 local mercenary card. It is possible to print and play them. So I'll talk about them briefly. The local mercenary card is a powerful influence wild card you can use only in conjunction with your spy. It's a good card, although its artwork is ridiculous. The college activist is a popular card. It's mainly used as a special action because it's not an effective pair with mercenaries. On the surface, it could seem a bit overpowered, considering what the card is supposed to represent. But on the flip side, you have to flush your entire hand to play it. Every flag card you burn moves a corresponding cube 1 space. For me, these cards are permanent additions to the base deck. They make the game more fun. I came up with several more cards, like I said before, mainly to suit the East and West Germany track, which I always play with. Some of these I've uploaded to BGG: Special Forces, Witch Hunts, Femme Fatale, an Assassination card. Feel free to check them out and print and play them, if you want. I have tested all of them. They play much like all the other cards. Their purpose is just to add variety. Since then, I did this like 10 years ago. I can't believe it's 10 years. Anyway, I've come up with some new ideas. By the way, I should mention the themes are edgier and are inspired by James Bond. So you could say these cards could be like a 1965 expansion, which I feel is okay. It's still the Cold War. So anyway, I have a couple of wireless bug cards. You drop them in your opponent's gadget slot as a special action, and unless they can use a gadget breaker on themselves, they have to reveal a portion of their hand after the draw phase. I have a couple of East-West Germany propaganda cards. If these are used as a special action, you shuffle both players' hands together and then redeal. The player of propaganda gets the first card. This is a popular card. It's fun to play, as results may vary. I have a divided Berlin card. You play this as a special action once, and then it's out of the game. You go through the discard pile and remove 2 more cards from the game. So the idea here is you try to target your opponent's favorite cards so they can't use them again if and when discards get reshuffled into a new draw deck. Another one is a rogue threat card. It also jams up an enemy's gadget slot. Rogue threats prevent a player from securing a country. You have to eliminate the threat before a cube can be locked. I also have interrogation cards. Blindly pick a card directly from your opponent's hand. Cyanide/poison cards. Bureaucratic red tape. Heist cards. Extra henchmen. Super double agents. And a high-tech gadget warehouse card I named Q Branch. So I think you get the point. Overall, I just love this game. It's so fun and yet extremely easy to expand and modify if you are so inclined. So over the years, I have noticed one thing about playing the heck out of this game, and the following will serve as a gameplay tip, I suppose. The best players seem to be those who are always ultra disciplined with respect to hand management, and these are the types of guys I normally get to play with. And one dude in particular that I knew was next to impossible to beat, so it took me a while to figure out what was going on. And these players seem to really not care what's on the cards. Rather, they focus on any play that gives them numerical advantages, which results in card depletion of the opponent. Sounds obvious, but it's relentlessly applied, and that's the key. It looks like mercenary play, always in your home country that you really need to block, pilfered accounts all day long. Anything that always has the opposition with fewer cards in their hand or fewer actions to take is the go-to play for the experienced player. That's what I've noticed. Anyway, I'll wrap things up with a couple of funny 1955 anecdotes. So one time I was playing a guy with all the expansions included, and it was a tight back and forth game. He wasn't a rookie player. He had played before at least once. In fact, this dude is also like way smarter than I am. He's a successful lawyer actually in real life. Anyhow, he's feeling pretty confident until I hit him with an assassination card. It's an expansion card that resets a cube to a neutral position on an influence track. And for whatever reason, that action seemed to unhinge whatever strategy he was working on to such a degree that he just couldn't recover. And he wound up losing shortly thereafter. And he attributed the final outcome of the game, in fact, to that single play. And I didn't necessarily agree with him on that point, but that's what he believed. Anyway, it was getting late, so I left. I was at his place. And now fast forward until the next time I see him, which I believe was a day or so later. And instead of saying hi or, hey, what's up? The first thing he says to me is, I still can't believe you used that assassination card. And I was like, holy crap, dude, you're still pissed off about that? He'd been thinking about the game the whole time. And it wasn't that he felt it was unfair. It turns out he was just so disappointed because he really wanted to use it on me first. Anyway, I thought that was really funny. And one more thing I'd like to mention I thought was pretty noteworthy. After I posted some mod ideas to BGG like 10 years ago, the owner-developer of Living Worlds Games, Nicholas Viatek, sent me 19.55 in Geek Gold. And I thanked him for the tip. And he replied back, and he said that it really made his day to get feedback and to see people still enjoying his game. And I do, still, to this day. It's the only time a game designer contacted me directly, by the way. Anyway, it's always the cult of the old for me. I find classic titles interesting. 1955 is one I keep. It's a true middle-sized game, and that's fairly rare. If that's what you and a friend are in the mood for, I say give it a try. Pick up a used copy online, and I don't think you can go wrong here. It's a solid design, it's fun on its own, and it's something you can enhance easily with modifications. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more content coming soon.